Sure. Hey, Mike, were you friendly with Flip Saunders at all? Did you know him?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, very friendly, very close. And I'll give you the quick story with that. I did not know Flip very well at all. And when I got fired last December while I was in Sacramento, kind of speaking to the gentleman and great guy that Flip was, he reached out to me, and I probably spent 3 weeks with Flip and his team, traveling with them, watching them practice, helping them, and I just feel really fortunate and blessed to have had the opportunity to get to know him, not only as a coach, but as a man, as a husband, as a father. And I have so much respect for him. And the NBA community has lost a great ambassador of the game. And I'm truly saddened. When I got the news yesterday, it was heartbreaking because, he said to me when he called me up and invited me on the road, he says, you know what, I've been fired before. And you hear from everybody in the first 48 hours. But 2 weeks after you get fired, you hear from nobody. And 2 weeks after I got fired, Flip Saunders was on the phone and invited me to spend 2 weeks with their team. And I'm thankful for that opportunity, and really feel blessed that I got a chance to know him.
That's a great story. Mike, this is what he had. I don't know if you heard what I said, but what I always appreciated about him is that he understood opposing teams, media, everything else. He was always the first guy to say hi. Yeah. I mean, you didn't have to go up and say, "Hello, Coach, can I bother you?" I'd walk down the court when he was with the Wizards, and he'd say, "Hey, Woody, how you doing?" And I mean, he was that kind of vibrant kind of person, and as I said, he paid his dues. He was in the Continental Basketball Association with 3 different teams. He coached at a small college, Golden Valley Lutheran, and 3 NBA teams, and the guy had really worked his ass off, if you will, to get where he was.
No, there's no doubt. And I think as I got to know him and spent time with him this last winter, and we stayed in touch, all the way up. He called me in July, right before it became public about his diagnosis of lymphoma, and he wanted to let me know before it got out. We talked about working together at some point. He had a lot of respect for me, and to your point, Woody, one thing he said to me was, you know what? He says, Malone, I like the fact that you've paid your dues. You were in college. You worked your way up into the NBA, video, behind the bench, and now you're a head coach. And to your point, I think he identified with that because of his own career. Nothing came easy for Flip Saunders, but everywhere he was, he had a positive impact on the team and the players around him. And with this tragic news, you see all the outpouring of love and support for him, for his family, and the Timberwolves organization. Yep. So, tragedy, but I know 2 weeks ago I had pins made up to honor Flip, and this was well before I knew he was going to pass away. I was going to honor him just because of the impact he had on me in a short time as he fought his fight. Now that he has passed, obviously, we're still planning on wearing our lapel pins just to honor a fallen member of the NBA coaching community.
Yeah, just before you came on, we mentioned that all the coaches would be wearing those pins, and that's something that you started it. Before we get into the interview, I was told when I was on Around the Horn earlier today, that and I mentioned that you were coming on the show, there's this guy in New York, and I'm sure you never heard of him, but he said, when you talk to Mike Malone, bring up Frank Azzola and see what he says.
Well, Frank says he's my agent. Frank takes credit for everything that's happened to my NBA coaching career. But I go way back with Frank to when I was coaching at Manhattan College in New York City, and obviously Frank is a good man, and I have a lot of respect for him.
He said to say hello, so I've said hello. Now we can move on to more important people.
Mike, let's talk about your team. You've seen the predictions. I mean, everybody's putting them out on the internet, newspaper, TV, radio. And the predictions for the Nuggets, not all that flattering. The win total isn't that great. Convince us why all these people are wrong and your win total is going to be greater than Vegas says 26.5.
Well, first of all, I love it. I use it as motivation. It's everybody is doubting us, picking us to be 15th or 14th in the Western Conference. So that doesn't get me down. That doesn't make me upset. It's just another challenge, and I love a challenge. And the reason it gets me excited is because the people who are making those predictions, Les and Woody, they don't know the players in our locker room. And I wasn't here last year or the year before, but I've heard from so many people that have been covering this team that there's a different vibe. Our players have really truly committed themselves all summer, in September, and through training camp to improving, to being a much harder working, competitive basketball team, not being a team that rolls over when adversity hits, which I think we saw a little bit the last 2 years. Playing together. We have a roster that may not have any superstar on it, but we have a lot of good players. We have great veteran leadership with Jameer Nelson, Mike Miller, Randy Foye. We have a bunch of players that have experienced playoff success, know what it takes to get back to the playoffs. So people can doubt us. People can pick us to be last place. All we're concerned about is getting better every single day and working hard, competing at a high level, and giving our great fans something that they can be proud about when they come down to the Pepsi Center.
When I started covering pro basketball in the 1970, I was told by a coach, you're as good as the last guy on your bench. And at the time, Mike, they only had 10 guys. But I saw a story that your last pick, and I went out for the Summer League. Les and I were both out there. I was out there for a couple of the games Summer League, and Eric Green jumped out at me as a motor guy, that a guy that could contribute to a team. And so I was intrigued that you kept him as your third point guard, and I wonder what came into the decision making, because one of the guys you cut I kind of like too, whose name I couldn't pronounce if I sat here all day. So that's your last guy for the moment.
Right.
What do you think you're going to get out of a third point guard?
Well, to your earlier point, Woody, I think the great thing we have here is I think we have a lot of depth. We have a lot of guys that can compete for minutes at every spot. You know, but the decision to keep Eric Green, and it basically came down to Eric Green or Nick Johnson, and you mentioned it. You know, the pace at which Eric Green plays, which is a pace that we'd like to play at. He pushes, he attacks. He has the ability to score the basketball. Obviously, he led the country in scoring when he was at Virginia Tech. He's getting a lot more comfortable running his team and being a facilitator and a playmaker, but also the intangibles. Here's a kid that was coming to the gym 3 times a day, not because we were asking him to, because he was doing that on his own. He is a highly self-motivated individual. He's a young man who knows that he is going to have to work extremely hard to win an NBA spot, which he's just done, and he kind of fits the culture that we're trying to create here. And you know, we feel very fortunate to have Eric, and you know, he went out and he won that battle, and I would feel confident putting Eric Green into a game, knowing that he has the ability to go out there and get the job done.
Hey, Mike, when you were first hired, we kept hearing he's a defensive guy. He's a defensive guy. Yet people here, fans, media, I think even the front office, wants this team to run. So how do you have those two things coexist? Playing the style of defense you want and getting out and running teams out of the gym.
Yeah, and I think we had some great examples of that in the preseason. I'm not even sure, Les, right now what the final stats were, but I know we were maybe seventh or eighth in pace of play in the preseason. And it's really simple. You know, defense and rebounding will be the trigger that ignites that break. And I don't want to be a team that just runs off of other teams' makes. I think that's a losing proposition, and I think that's been proven many, many times. You look at 08-09, the Denver Nuggets got out of the first round, went to the Western Conference Finals. That season, the Nuggets team had one of the best defenses in the NBA, and that's what we'd like to get back to, being a team that defends at a high level but uses that defense and rebounding to ignite the break and to get out and attack before the opposing defense can get set and game plan against us. We've had great examples of it early, and you look at last year's championship team, the Golden State Warriors, they did it better than anybody. They had the best defense in the NBA, which allowed them to have the best offense in the NBA because they got out and ran and scored a lot of easy baskets. So that's our game plan. We had, again, you know, I think games that jump out to me, Chicago, Phoenix, where we really defended at a very high level and got out and ran. And I'm calling a lot less plays than I did in Sacramento. I'm giving these guys freedom to play. The reward is if you defend at a high level and we rebound the ball, well, let's get out and play. As long as we're taking good shots and taking care of the basketball, I'm going to give you the freedom to do so as long as you're buying in and playing the defense that I'm asking you to.
Yeah, you brought up, and you beat me to it, you brought up the Golden State Warriors, and everybody thinks about what a great scoring team they are. But they were #1 in the NBA in defense. And I remember Doug Moe, and I don't know how much you really know about him, Mike, but when he was here, people claimed he never played defense, but he said you can play defense and give up 112 points if you're playing defense, because that's going to create you scoring 115, 118 points.
Right.
And so I think what you're saying is absolutely right. Let's talk about the kid who has a chance to be Rookie of the Year. He's got a little bit of a hamstring problem now. Does that concern you going into the opening game and opening week? And how has Moutier's adjustment been after having seen him in the preseason?
Yeah, I'll start with your second question first. I really think Emmanuel, for a 19-year-old rookie, is really mature. And I think that speaks to his mom, his brothers, his life story coming over from the Democratic Republic of the Congo. But early on, we saw in the first two games, he threw the ball all over the gym. At 8 turnovers against the Clippers, 7 against Dallas. And I think what he realized right away was, okay, I'm not in China anymore. I'm not in high school anymore. When I drive to the basket, DeAndre Jordan, Blake Griffin, big guys are waiting for me. And I think the athleticism and size of some of the bigs were probably a little bit, eye-opening. But as the preseason went on, he started to understand that, okay, I can't just drive into the paint, leave my feet, and hope something good happens. I have to have a plan. I have to be under control, and I have to make sure I'm getting my teammates involved. And he's done a better job of that as of late. So I think he is adjusting. I think he's getting better. Obviously, there's going to be nights this year, Woody, where we're going to say, man, oh man, that kid is what a stud. And there's going to be other nights, where we're going to say, okay, he's still a 19-year-old rookie and he's got a ways to go. But we're so excited and optimistic about his talent, his potential. It gives everybody cause for, the future is bright. The hamstring injury, obviously, he practiced today. But, obviously you want to go into the season 100% or as close to it as possible. And we feel he's getting there. So I don't think it should be a problem opening night. I know he's ready to go to start this off for real. Mike,
no, you need to go shortly. One last question. Kenneth Faried, is he a good fit for what you're trying to do?
I think so. You can't teach, a player. You can't take a kid up to the gym every day and say, okay, we're going to work on your motor. We're going to work on your ability to run the floor and rebound. When Kenneth Faried is engaged, which he has been, and I think, and that's part of my whole thing this all season, was to get to know our players as people first and players second. And I think Kenneth really believes that I have his back, and I do believe in his abilities, because I do. And when he is engaged, Les, he's a guy that can really just change the outcome of the flow of a game with his energy. Again, you don't see many guys running the floor like he does, rebounding the way he does. And, I think everybody in Denver keeps on telling me they want the manimal back. From what I've seen on a daily basis, I think Kenneth is getting back to that, and we're excited for that. So I have no doubt in my mind that Kenneth can be a part of this, and a big part of it, and we're going to need him.
Mike, let's slide. I've got one more question.
I can't control him, Mike. You know that.
Nobody can. You were in a goofy situation. You got fired. What do you think makes you a different coach now, having gone through that experience? I mean, what do you see approaching the season? Boy, I've got the second chance right away. I'm going to grab it and do what with it?
Well, and that's a great question, and I get that quite a bit. What have you learned from your first experience as a head coach? And I'll answer it this way, Woody. Every learning experience, every experience you go through, rather, is a learning experience. And I take from it not so much X's and O's and how I approach the season, but it's more in the day-to-day operations and my ability to have a relationship with our GM, Tim Connolly, to have constant lines of communication, to have a relationship with Josh Kroenke, our owner, where we're always on the same page and we're always sharing a common shared vision. And I think what happened in Sacramento, quite honestly, was as the year and a half I was there went on, things changed, and they changed so much sometimes. We weren't all operating on the same page, it felt, that time. So I've taken the biggest thing from it is the importance of communicating with Tim Connolly, communicating with Josh Kroenke, and making sure that we are always reading off the same page. And we're not always going to agree, but whenever we leave that room, we share a common vision and philosophy and belief, and we just continue to trust each other and communicate with each other. And I think that's the biggest thing I take from my last experience in Sacramento.
piece of advice, what other is occasionally pick up the phone and call Stan Kroenke.
Yeah. Yeah. Mr. K, he's definitely in the loop as well.
Hey, Mike, really appreciate your time. I know it's a busy couple days coming up for you. Good luck on Wednesday night and for the rest of the season.
Hey, Les and Woody, and I really do look forward to coming down in studio with you guys at some
beautiful.
point. And
Yeah,
appreciate you having me on, and look forward to speaking to you guys soon.
We'll
Great,
see you
Mike.
at the arena later.
We'll see you there.
Okay. Take
All right.
care.
That's
Bye-bye.
Mike Malone, head coach of the Nuggets. And let's take a break. Let's go to the